Hello everyone, welcome back to the table. Today we're just continuing on my exploration and journey into Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. This is 4th edition and this is the starter set. Now, I wasn't actually planning on purchasing this. I thought I would just go ahead and get the advanced rule book. Just moving this to get rid of glare there. I thought I would just get the rule book, the big thick book, and just run from that. But every time I walked by the Cubicle 7 booth at Origins, this just kept screaming to me, you know, get this as well, get this as well. So I went ahead and got it. So I have already looked through it, already played with it a little bit. I've already been playing with the dice a little bit that they have. Really like it. And I think what I'll do is I've read through a few portions of the actual rule book. And what I'm going to do is actually probably just go ahead and focus on reading the basic adventure in here, and then, you know, add in elements from the big rule book. So I'll probably run the pre-gens for the first time out, just to get a good kind of basic feel of the game. And the rule book then will be there to fill in gaps. So I'm glad I have both, because now I've got a place to go once I have kind of finished that introductory thing. So this has got quite a few bits in here, and they're all really good looking. And that's, I had to admit, I'm a sucker for graphics and art. So somebody might watch this and say, yeah, too bad the game is horrible. It might be a game that I don't play that often, but it just looks so good, and the art is just it just draws me in. Okay, so what I'm pulling out probably is not in the order that it actually comes in the starter guide, because again, I've already been fiddling through it. So I'm just going to show you some things that come in here. So there's the guide here. This is probably not an exact copy of what comes in the main book, but this is actually, I think, a really nice place for you to go after you've done the beginning adventure. This is going to give you some additional places to explore. And again, like a lot of guides that talk about places, there's people of renown or that you should know, give some stats. So this, I think, is just a nice little hop-off point to go further. And it's not too bad. What is it, like 64 pages? 56 pages. And again, I think the quality is really good. I love the artwork, and it's got quite a bit. Now, I will say this. I don't know how much of the artwork is new for 4th edition and how much of this is recycled. It just really feels like a lot of new artwork. So I think that if you're a new player, I think it's going to look fantastic. But the only reason I mention that is because I've seen in some games where it feels like the companies just are continually recycling work. So hopefully, if you're a veteran, you're going to find some new pieces of artwork as well to inspire you to play. I hope that's the case, because I think they've done a really good job putting stuff in here. But anyway, that's one of the big books right there, is the Guide to Uberstrike. I might not be saying that correctly, sorry. Then what I have here is one of the pre-made characters. And this is what they had laying out on the table. Every time I walk by, there's just a whole bunch of these characters laid out. And the artwork is so cool. I probably would not be a big fan of wearing a hat that size, but again, it just really lends to the atmosphere and feel of the game, kind of the flamboyance of the world. Even though it's dark and gritty and grim, they still find ways for people to show that pomp and you know, flair and flash that they have. I always like seeing all the scrolls that have like blessings and charms and things like that. Scrolls, even in Warhammer 40K, there's scrolls. So it's really nice to see those touches here. So this is the human soldier, and gives a little bit of backstory. And I just like these kind of fold-out sheets. You've got some side notes, explain some concepts like fate, fortune. Then the character sheet. Single-sided character sheet, so if you want to keep a lot of additional information, you'll need a second sheet of paper. But this is, I'm going to say, probably about as basic what you need to play the adventure that comes in the game as far as a pre-made character. I mean, at least you got your armor ratings and everything like that, basic weapon skills, some equipment, the basic skills. So this will get you running, And then over there again, a little bit of character background, so if you want to really role play her out. So that's the first character. There's like 6 total in here. This is probably the reason you would get this. This is not only an adventure, but it has rules sprinkled throughout. So there's not like a separate mini rule book and then the adventure. The adventure has the rules written in it. And I actually like that. I think I do. I wasn't sure how I'd feel about that, but as I'm reading, I think it's fine, because you do like a basic part of the adventure, and then it says, okay, to complete this part of the adventure, here's the rules that you need. So it takes you through very, very slowly. It's a nice guided approach. I've got some other kits that actually have like a separate rule book, and then the adventure kind of reminds you some things like, okay, here's where you would make a test, but then you still got to go to the big book to kind of get the explanation better. So what I like is the fact that what you need for that moment is right here in the adventure book. So I think that's cool. I like that approach. So the best thing you could do for this is just go ahead and read through it once, kind of like you might do for any pre-adventure, but it gives you an idea of the rules that you need. The nice thing is this includes a lot of basic rules as well. Like it's got critical hits and things like that, but it's not as extensive as the main rule book. So you're still going to get exposure to a lot of those concepts, but in just smaller bite-sized pieces. And I think that's a great way to approach the system, because it does have a lot of detail. And just like any role-playing game where they're introducing the world, the religions, and all those different things, the game is going to have a lot of things particular to the rules. You know, poisons, disease, madness, and things like that. You might not need those right away, and you kind of skip over them, but you're still sometimes leaving yourself wondering, well, what exactly do I need to get going? And that's why I ultimately decided to get this starter set, because the adventure takes you through those basics. Once you've got the basics down, great. You got then I have the big rule book to start adding the details, like character creation, character advancement, stuff like that. So this actually looks like a pretty good adventure, kind of a fun, silly beginning. I'm not going to say much about it for any spoilers for those who might want to play, but if you are going to be a player, I'll just flip through a few things here quickly. I would say it overall might be very fun for you as far as, you know, kind of silly beginnings, and then it's got some pretty serious parts later on. But overall, if you're going to run it as a dungeon master, I think you'll do very well with it. It, again, lays everything out very nicely for you. It even has kind of like tips to kind of keep players on the path. So the idea with like traditional role-playing games is the characters can do whatever they want, and they truly can. But sometimes pre-made adventures can feel railroaded because there's specific things in here to kind of guide you along, right? There's like an ultimate goal. And definitely, with an adventure that's about 25 pages, including rules, there's a few extra pages here, you definitely might feel railroaded at times, but it's the starting adventure. So I think that most people will appreciate that if they say, yeah, let's go off and fight a dragon. Okay, well, on your way to fight the dragon, you get caught up in this. So you still have some ways to pull them back to this adventure while still feeling like they have some greater control over their situation. The other thing I thought that was kind of cool about this beginning adventure is once you get to the end, there were at the back some little adventures that were designed for each of the characters. So there's still some playability once you get past that big adventure. And then on the back there, critical wound table, dramatic test outcomes table. So again, yesterday talked about the great concept of success levels. So when you're doing like opposed checks on like combat rolls and stuff like that, you might get a marginal success if you barely beat your opponent's combat roll. It says yes, but you achieved your goal, but there's an unintended side effect or flaw. So even if you just barely do better than your opponent and there's like a success level of 0, you still might connect, but maybe the DM might throw in a negative side effect. So I just think that's pretty neat. So anyway, there's your dramatic test outcomes table, critical wound table, and that's what I was saying. There's like a basic critical wound table, whereas the full book, there's tables for all kinds of stuff. So again, just enough to get you going and not overwhelm you, but leaves room for growth. Here's some more of the pre-made characters. I'll just grab one here. So like I said, six total. What was this one? The Witch Hunter, I think. Yep. This was a human witch hunter, and I just still think the artwork is fantastic. Love it. We were playing Black Hack, and that had some character artwork. They only have like 4 character classes, and 3, I think. But anyway, the artwork here, I liked how the Black Hack had a nice little character portrait, and I thought they were great. But my players were like, meh, I think they'll like this a lot better. Really kind of give you an idea of what the character looks like. And you don't have to feel railroaded by gender. The book says, I only mention this because if you're a male player, even though this might look like a female, you don't have to feel like it has to be, you know. I only mention that because I've played with some folks that say, well, if the picture's a lady, I can't play a lady. It's like, well, you can play and make it whatever you want. So I just thought I'd throw that out there. This is your world. Make it what you want. So this is the character they got. Your human witch hunter can be any kind of human witch hunter you want. Now, on the flip side, if I say that, well, why can't it be an elf witch hunter? Well, out of the starter set, probably not. But if you get the big rule book, you could make adjustments to these starter characters to fit more in line with the type of character you're looking for. So again, take these as a great starting point, and then it's your world. Make it what you want. So that's one of the characters there. Then we have the Read Me First. Well, I did read that first a while ago. Read that. It's just a little introduction to, you know, what the starter set is, the kind of the goals, concepts of the game. So, you know, read this. Great. I think it also had a little thing in there, if you're like a player and not a DM, don't read into the adventure. Save that for fun. All right, so a little bit of what's in the kit. Another character we have here. There you go. Again, great character art. And if you want to make that, change the name, make that a female high elf merchant, go for it. So there's very little you can change. That's pretty much about it. Like I said, if you want to change the character race or specific skills, things like that, you'll have to wait till you get the big book, because I didn't see anything in here about leveling up. So really these characters are purpose built for that one adventure, but you could take them with you if you wanted and then make them your own later after you get the big book. Not much in the way of armor. Got some leg armor, but that's about it. Nice. Okay, so there's another character. Then we have also, oh, I like this guy, Human Wizard. That looks very scary, but very cool. Like it. Okay, so put that one there. Come on. Who else we have in here? We've got the Halfling Thief. So adorable. And I read it somewhere, and I don't remember where I read it, but one of these adventure books gives you the gnome class. Not really sure the difference between halflings and gnomes as far as Warhammer goes, but if you like the short peoples, there's going to be at least 2 races. Well, 3 if you count dwarves. Dwarves sometimes fit on that short side. And it's a dwarf slayer, the Doom Cult. We're looking to die. I've done something wrong and I need to correct it by dying a glorious death. And no armor. Well, alright then. Yep. I think I prefer a character with a lot of armor, so I might not get a whole lot of play as a dwarf slayer ever. I did watch a little short online review. They were, I don't know, they might not have understood that the dwarf slayer is a very specific character class and that not all dwarves have orange mohawks or whatever. That's a pretty unique thing to this particular dwarf cult. So yeah, don't let that turn you off. Dwarves can be and do anything that they want. I say that, but in the book, certain races do actually have restrictions on certain character classes, but then it does say that, you know, hey, if you truly want a particular combination of race and career, go for it. It's your game. It is your game. Here's a map. There were 2 maps included. One map is the very detailed Game Master map, so it's got all the detail. And it's two-sided, and then there's a city, and it tells you where everything is located. So this is your Game Master map. Then there's a map you hand the players. And I like this one a little bit because it's even got the fold marks, like if you had a folded map that they were using. So you can share this with your players. And then it has a not detailed map of the city, but kind of gives you an idea where things are in relation to each other. And as they move about town, they'll start to know where things are located. So very cool. I like that a lot. I like the fact that they included two maps that way. Also, on the inside of the box, I thought this was a nice touch too. We got another map. Also, I took the lid off. Speaking of the box, just to show you real quick, they did include a very minimalistic Dungeon Master screen. And it does actually say that when you use this, just set it up and then slide the bottom box in here to hold this up, and then you have a one-page reference screen. Cool. I know some people probably would have been happier if they actually included a more traditional fold-out Dungeon Master screen, but I like the fact that they're trying to use all aspects of the box. So, you know, it's a start. I think I would really like if they come out with an official Game Master screen. Can make my own if I needed to, I guess, because I can make one out of these reference sheets. So we have one here, talks about your simple tests, opposed and dramatic tests. Now, double-sided, so depending on how many of these we got total, I can make some double-sided copies, and then I could make my own Dungeon Master screen. So you got your skill reference sheet, what skills are, okay, cool, nice. Injury reference sheet, again, you got another critical wound table, how you get wounds, important part of combat. On the back, a summary of combat. Introduction to Uber's Reich in the Empire, so a nice quick summary that people could read so they can understand the area or the world they're playing in a little bit. Condition reference sheet. I think I've seen online some folks are making custom little cards you can print out, so if somebody gets Ablaze, just hand them the Ablaze card. So this is something I might make copies of just to hand players as needed so they can track their conditions. Here's handouts. If I remember right, you're supposed to hand these rumors out to the players at the start of the adventure. So these are things that they know. So I would definitely make copies of this because I don't want to cut up. I don't want to cut up the nice stuff that comes in the box. But I don't have a problem making copies and handing them out paper copies. Last couple things we have here. Handout for going shopping. This is a very kind of cool, I'm not going to say much more to that, but just a nice what should we buy, things we could buy, explains haggling and things like that a little bit. The opposed test explains a little bit of the money conversion rate, and that's that side. So going shopping, always a favorite part of characters. This also came with a flyer for Warhammer Vermintide. I played the first one, just the end times. I didn't play part 2, so I played the first one a little bit, but I hear part 2 is much better. So there's no coupon code or anything like that. Sadly, it just says, "Hey, buy our video game." And then on the back, Rough Nights and Hard Days. Cool. I don't know much about that. I think I was reading that these scenarios were in this new 4th edition were actually rewritten by this guy. I think Graham Davis actually wrote the original series of these adventures, and he's updated it for 4th edition, which, if that is the case, and that's, you know, my memory is correct, that's awesome. I think that's cool that they get the original author to come back years and years later and gets it all up to snuff with 4th edition. I think that's very, very cool. And it would be nice to have some more adventures. They have a new full one coming out that I guess is a really well-known campaign to people who are familiar with Warhammer. So I'm not, but any new adventures and books I think will be a great asset. And then here are some advantage tokens. This is probably the one aspect of combat that I've read, I can't say heard, but read on forums and comments that people really don't like, maybe. Or maybe it's just because the only people who are talking about it are the people who don't like it. Maybe lots of people like it. But the idea is if you hit somebody, you get an advantage token, adds 10 to your weapon skill for your next attack. So the idea is if you keep hitting, you are getting advantage. You're on a roll, you're on a hot streak. It makes combat go quicker. So it's not just always a slugfest of dice rolls. Eventually you're landing really good hits. Great. That's cool, because if you're rolling low and your weapon skill keeps going up, your success level is theoretically increasing and you are potentially doing more damage. So we'll see how that plays out, because the complaint that I read was tracking that for everyone, and the fact that it does come and go so quickly that you know, it may be more of a hindrance to track than not. But I got some tokens I'll try using to track it. I'm going to give it a shot. But there you go. That is what comes in the starter kit. I think this was $30. Maybe if you go online, you can find it cheaper. And if you do, fantastic, because I think it's well worth the price if you want to get into the game. So no, I don't have any character development. I don't think there was any rules for spending experience if you pick some up. There might be. I haven't read all the adventure yet. But if it does, it's just very basic character development stuff. If you want to take the game further, then I do think that the hardbound book is a good investment once you get past the starter set. This in itself, though, I think is really cool. Even if you decide not to play the game, it's good reference material if you want to make your own scenarios, adventures, and have maybe take some ideas from this and put it into your own kind of campaign world. I don't mind sharing information among games, because this might be a fun type of world to live in with your own favorite rule set. I don't mind saying things like that because, you know, it's my game. I can do whatever I want. So I'm just letting you know that I'm going to try playing this game as it is. We're going to see how it works out. And, you know, I'll let you know. If you do play some Warhammer and you have tips for new players, please feel free to share. I will take any advice that I can get. And then if you have any resources you can recommend, that'd be great too. There's a website I found called like Gitzman, Gitzman, something like that. They did a lot of material for 3rd edition, and it looks like they're starting to put some things out for 4th edition. So that's one resource I know of. So there's my sharing tip for you. But if you have any ideas or resources to share, please feel free. Other than that, hey, thanks for hanging out. Really appreciate it. Tomorrow we'll look at some more stuff that I picked up at Origins. Until then, have a great night. See you later.